All right, you guys. So, as of today, you should have 50 note cards coming from 5 sources. At least 2 of those sources should be print sources that you pulled from Explora. And the exciting news is that you're way closer to done with this paper than you think you are. The trick is it's a research paper. So, really, it's just a matter of taking those facts, organizing them, and then typing them up. And that sounds really easy, and it is. The only kind of trick is along the way, we need to make sure that we're getting our citations correct. So today we're going to talk about how to outline an essay, which is going to be your first step, and then also how to develop MLA inline citations. Again, this video, I'm sorry if it's kind of sloppy and messy. I'm not going to have time to edit it and mash it together and make it super clean and neat. I just want to get this stuff out to you guys as quick as I can, so I appreciate you bearing with me. So first off, the first thing that you're going to do, you guys should have these subtopics, like we talked about, up in the upper left-hand corner of your cards. You should have roughly 10 on each of your 5 subtopics. And you might also find that you started making new subtopics and you kind of merged them together. I had background as a subtopic, and then I also started calling stuff early life. Early life and background for me are pretty much the same thing. So not a big deal. Just point being, as you're organizing these, you're going to want to group them together by those subtopics, and you might have to make some decisions as you go. Hey, I've got 9 early life cards, and I have 1 that I called background. Cool. Just cross out background, call it early life, stick it in that pile, you're good. So you're going to get those together, and what those are going to do is organize you into basically roughly the 5 pieces of your paper, the 5 topics you're going to cover, but they're probably going to all be out of order. So you're going to want to go through now and put your note cards in an order that makes sense. And then once they're in an order that makes sense, you're going to want to group them into paragraphs. Now, again, this is my ultimate beast as an 8th grade English teacher, is getting you guys to understand that paragraphs are not a certain number of sentences, and paragraphs are not, just some arbitrary thing that we made up. Paragraphs are a very real thing that serves a very real purpose. That very real purpose is that it keeps your thoughts together. So as you're going through and you're organizing these note cards, you should be breaking them up into thoughts. I'll show you how mine work as we go through them. But what you're going to see is this paragraph we're going to write about today with Jimmy Hoffa is just about where he grew up and how he met his wife. All right, that's all one thought. It's kind of the beginning of that dude's life. It's something you're going to need to know as you get into my paper. And then from there, that's going to be one paragraph. I'm going to move on to a different one after that. So anyway, I think this will make more sense as we go. So first thing you're going to do when you're making an outline is open up a blank Google Doc and name it. I'm going to call mine Jimmy Hoffa outline. Give it a specific title, guys. This has nothing specifically to do with this paper, but just with a common complaint I have with 8th graders all through the year. I can't tell you how many essays I get turned in that are called untitled. And then you guys come to me and you're like, hey, I turned that in. And I'm like, oh, okay, what'd you call it? And you're like, I don't know. And now I go to search for it and I'm just finding, 60 different papers from 60 different kids named untitled. Anyway, point being, call it something specific. Mine's called Jimmy Hoffa outline. Then what you guys are going to do, and this is going to be just a hair different on your iPad, but if you come up here, you should be able to find these different ways to make lists. Numbered lists, bulleted lists. Quite honestly, I don't care if you choose numbered or bulleted. I don't care which of these numbered systems you choose. Do whatever one strikes your fancy. I'm probably just going to do these guys here. And so now, what it's going to do is this is going to basically organize your whole outline for you. It's a really nice tool. So I told you my first topic is background. So the stuff that's going to be at the furthest to the left is going to be my big subtopic ideas. I have 5 of those. In my paper, I'm going to be talking about Jimmy Hoffa's background, his arrest and conviction, his connections to the mob, his disappearance, and then theories about him disappearing. But my first one, and the one that we're going to talk about today, is background. So background is my subtopic. And then I told you that within background, I'm going to have different paragraphs. So that's where you use this tool up here to indent in. It'll give it a letter. And now I'm ready to start talking. So I go background. My first paragraph is going to be about his early life. So I label it as such. And then I go and I indent again. And now I'm ready to start putting together my note cards into an outline. So my first note card says that in his early life, he was born James Riddle Hoffa in Brazil, Indiana in 1913. So I just go through and I plug those in. At this point, it's up to you when you want to do more work. You need to be turning these notes into full sentences that make sense, that aren't just the fragmented little notes like we talked about making. You can either do that now, and I kind of recommend doing that now, or you can leave them in fragments and then type them up when you go into your paper. It's whether you're writing now or whether you're writing later. It's kind of up to you guys. So again, those notes. He's born James Riddle Hoffa. I'm going to turn them into sentence now, and I'm going to say Jimmy Hoffa was born James Riddle Hoffa in Brazil, Indiana in 1913. Is that what I said? 1913. Boom, that's a fact. So now, we talked about this. You guys are going to need to have inline citations. If I'm going to write that fact in my paper, I need to be able to prove that it came from a reliable source. So my source B, when I look at my source cards, is biography.com from an article titled What Happened to Jimmy Hoffa. In order for me to cite that source, all I have to be able to do is go and find it. So if I go over to Google and I type what happened to Jimmy Hoffa, biography. I'm hoping this is my first link. Boom. What happened to Jimmy Hoffa? So I'm going to go in and pull that up. And then, as I go through, I now need to make what's called an inline citation. So the way that I do that, I have this little guide that I'm posting for you guys. When creating MLA citations, they look like these guys over here, just these little parentheses with information about where your source came from. The way that I do it is I kind of think about it like it's a hierarchy. So if you can, the number one, like the best MLA citation you can make is you use your author's last name and a page number. So now here's the thing though. When I go over to here, I don't have an author. It'll tell me who took that picture, photos by, but it's not telling me who wrote this article. And it's a website, so I don't have a page number, so I can't do that. The next best thing I could do is use just the author's last name. Again, I still don't have an author, so I can't do that. The next best thing I could do would be to use the name of the publication. So this one's a little tricky. Biography, you might be able to call that a publication. So I could just put in parentheses biography. But as it's a website, if push comes to shove and what you just have is a web URL, that's totally cool. That will happen. And I imagine it's going to happen with a lot of your stuff. If you guys found stuff from websites, it probably, especially bigger sites and TV channels and things like that, they usually don't tell you who wrote that article. They usually don't have page numbers. And again, they're a TV channel, not a publication. It gets a little blurry. It's totally fine to use the URL. Just try to use all the other stuff first. So in this case, I go and I put in parentheses, biography.com. So now when I'm writing my paper, I will write that sentence, and then at the end I will put in parentheses, biography.com. And now anybody who's like, who says Jimmy Hoffa was born James Riddle Hoffa in Brazil, Indiana in 1913? Anybody that wants to question me, they can go and check it out on biography.com. Totally cool. So moving on from there. Not too hard. My next, whoa, I didn't even know I could do that. My next note card, early life. When he was 11, he moved to Detroit, and that's where he grew up. So here, again, I'm going to turn that into a sentence. I'm going to say he, when he was 11 years old, his family moved to Detroit, where he grew up. When I'm done with that sentence, I'm going to make my citation. So let's check this out. I went, yeah, do I have a picture of that note card? Yikes. Mr. Brown messed up. Stand by, stand by. All right, never mind. D96, I have it in front of me, even if you guys don't. I know that that was a source that I got from Explora. D was an article titled Jimmy Hoffa, My Stepfather and Me. So for that, I go over to Explora, I search the things that I need to search, and sure enough, my article pops right up. Now, here is where I want to give you guys a couple tips. First off, my article came up by typing in exactly what I wrote down on my note card, which was the name of the article, Jimmy Hoffa, My Stepfather and Me. However, as I was trying to pull this up to show you guys, at one point I made step and father two separate words, and all of a sudden Explorer was like, we don't know what you're talking about. We can't find that article. And I also tried it like with the comma, Jimmy Hoffa, comma, my stepfather and me. For some reason that messed up their search results and they couldn't find it. So if nothing else, just think about whatever it was. If you can't find your source based off your source card, try to remember what you searched to find it, which probably isn't that hard for you to think of. I found this by searching Jimmy Hoffa. And sure enough, if I just search Jimmy Hoffa, a problem occurred. Anyway, if I just search Jimmy Hoffa, I promise this is one of the results that comes up. So go into Explorer, do whatever you've got to do to find it. So now we go through that citation hierarchy. Can I find an author's last name and page number? With Explorer, you probably can. Here's tip number 2 on citing sources in Explorer. If I click on this article, what I'm going to find is a whole bunch of, it's going to bring up the article and it's going to focus on the article, and it's not going to, it's a little bit tricky to find the citation information. However, right here in the search, it almost always has everything you're going to need in order to cite that article. So right there, I've immediately got my author, I've got the publication, I've got the date. But so with that, can I do author's last name and page number? I know that the author from source D is Jack Goldsmith. And I know from my 96 that I got it from page 96. So yes, I can. I can call that Goldsmith 96. Stellar citation. It's absolutely perfect. And so then my final card I can't show you because it's from a book. I can't imagine that you guys have a book, but I want to show you how to do it nevertheless. I have that he married Josephine Poziak after meeting her at a non-unionized workers action strike. So I'll type that in. Married Jane after meeting her at a non-unionized workers action strike. So now to cite this one, this is again going to work the same way as the one before it, where what I really want is the author and the page number. So on my source card, I actually did write down the author. This is written by Real Knott. And so I pull that Knott, that's his last name, Knott 24, and that does my citation. Cool. And so then that's pretty much all there is to it. That's how I'm making an outline. From there, the last thing that I wanted to show you though is that wraps up my early life paragraph. I had written on this card early life, that he worked with the Truck Drivers Teamsters Union, and that's good, and that's good information, and it's not far off. However, if what I'm talking about right now is like how he grew up and how he got married and started his family, and then all of a sudden I start talking about what he did for a living or where he worked or who he worked with, that's a great next thought, but it is a new thought. So a new thought gets a new paragraph, which is easy to do. I just go, here, I should show you guys how to do that on the iPad, just in case you don't know. I hit enter, and now it's like it wants to put it in this early life paragraph. No problem. You just hit the back decrease indent button. I'm going to say that this is his union work. Should capitalize that. I'm again going to indent back in, and now I'm starting a whole new paragraph. So, worked with Truck Drivers and Teamsters Union. Cool. He worked with truck drivers in the Teamsters Union. I cite the source. That came from, again, source card C. So it actually is going to look a lot like the citation right there. This one's from Knott, but then you'll notice that the page changed. In this case, this note card happened on C29, so it's Knott 29. Becomes my citation. It's really easy, maybe a little bit tedious. Once we're done getting this into an outline, the paper is 80% of the way done. It's a matter of us working out a solid introduction and conclusion and kind of threading these paragraphs together and making them sound sharp. But other than that, the hard part's really over. Keep up on it. Ask me or reach out if you have any questions. And thanks for tuning in.